It was an ordinary day at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, the world's busiest airport, though no one thought much of that while going about their usual travel routines. The automated boarding announcements hummed in the background. Suitcases rolled noisily over polished tile floors, and the aroma of overpriced coffee drifted from the corner cafes. No one noticed the elderly man moving slowly through the terminal. Coat worn thin, shoes neatly polished but clearly decades old. His name was Gregory Langston. Gregory walked with measured steps. His eyes, faded but still sharp beneath his graying brows, scanned his surroundings with calm precision. He clutched a leather briefcase so worn that it had molded to the curve of his hand. There was something serene about him, something composed. But that stillness was exactly what made him invisible. He reached the boarding gate for Flight 109 to Los Angeles. The terminal bustled with business travelers in sleek suits, vacationing families in matching sweatshirts, and irritated passengers pacing while talking into earbuds. Gregory was alone. He nodded politely to the gate agent as he handed her his boarding pass. The young woman, Lacey, barely looked up. She scanned the pass, offered a tight-lipped thank you, and turned back to her screen, never noticing the words first class, printed clearly on the stub. Gregory proceeded into the jet bridge. His steps echoed softly off the metal walls, slow but deliberate. He entered the cabin and turned left. Row 1A, first class. He slid into the plush leather seat, exhaled softly, and rested his briefcase on his lap. Moments later, a young flight attendant named Jordan walked past. He did a double take at the sight of Gregory. His face twitched. His training told him to say nothing, yet his instinct told him this man didn't belong there. Jordan's eyes narrowed as he walked briskly back toward the galley and whispered to a fellow attendant. Within minutes, the cabin began buzzing with low murmurs. A well-dressed man in row 1C leaned toward his partner and sneered. Guess someone wandered into the wrong part of the plane. Gregory remained still, his eyes closed briefly as he tuned out the whispers. He had seen many versions of this moment throughout his life. Assumptions, dismissals, disrespect masked as procedure. Jordan reappeared, this time accompanied by a uniformed security guard. The guard's shoulders were broad, his walk brisk, purposeful. His boots struck the aisle floor with a steady cadence of authority. He stopped beside Gregory's seat and tapped the elderly man gently on the shoulder. "Sir," the guard said, "I'm going to have to ask you to come with me." Gregory looked up, blinking slowly. "I'm sorry, you're in the wrong seat, sir." "No," Gregory replied evenly. "This is my seat." He reached into his coat pocket and retrieved the boarding pass, holding it out without a trace of irritation. The guard examined it, then glanced back at the flight attendant. Jordan shrugged. "That seat is reserved for a premium client. There must be a mistake." The guard's voice grew firmer. "I'm going to need you to come with me, sir." Passengers watched in awkward silence. Some stared. A few pulled out their phones. No one spoke up. Gregory rose without protest. His bones creaked as he stood, but his posture remained proud. He picked up his briefcase and followed the guard toward the front of the cabin. Once off the plane, he was led back through the jet bridge and into the terminal where another airline representative was waiting. "Sir, I'm sorry for the inconvenience," she began, though her tone lacked sincerity. "We have to sort out a discrepancy." "I have my ticket," Gregory said. "It's clear." "Yes, but our manifest." She hesitated. Gregory sighed. "Are you removing me from this flight?" She avoided his gaze. "I'm afraid we are." He nodded slowly. "Very well." They didn't see the flicker of resolve flash across his expression. They didn't know the man they had just humiliated. To them, Gregory Langston was just another elderly black man in faded clothes. Disposable, replaceable. But that was a grave mistake. He stepped outside into the chilly morning air and pulled out his phone. His fingers, steady and precise, dialed a single number. It rang twice. "Mr. Langston," came the smooth voice on the other end. "What can I do for you?" Gregory's voice was calm. "Elliot, pull all of it." "Sir?" "Every dollar. Pull our entire investment from Sky America today." There was a long pause. Elliot Daniels, CEO of Horizon Strategic Capital, understood the weight of those words. "All $4 billion? Every cent." "Understood, sir." The call ended. Gregory slipped his phone back into his coat and turned away from the terminal. Back inside the aircraft, Jordan felt a chill crawl up his spine. An odd silence settled in. He couldn't quite explain it. Something felt off. The gate agent walked down the aisle with a clipboard, whispering to a senior flight attendant. They were rearranging the seating chart again. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in downtown Manhattan, Elliot Daniels was already on his third call of the morning. His entire financial team had been summoned. Press releases were being drafted. Stock sales initiated and Sky America's market line, once stable and strong, had begun to dip. First a trickle, then a plunge. Within hours, headlines blazed across finance channels. Major investor pulls $4 billion from Sky America. Market shock as Langston Capital divests Airline holdings. Sky America stock tumbles amid investor exodus. Sky America's boardroom was in chaos. Executives yelled across the table, demanding answers. Phones rang nonstop. Emails from shareholders flooded in. Nobody understood why the money had been pulled. But Gregory knew. He returned to his penthouse that afternoon and stood silently by the window, watching the sun dip behind Atlanta skyline. His reflection in the glass was quiet, composed. The man the airline dismissed as a nobody was, in truth, the founder and chairman of Langston Capital, one of the most powerful private equity firms in the country. He poured himself a small glass of bourbon and sat in his leather chair. The TV murmured in the background with live coverage of the airline's unraveling. He watched for a while, then reached for his phone again. "Elliot," he said when the line picked up. "Yes, sir. I want every detail on Sky America CEO. Personal, professional, everything. You'll have it by morning." Gregory hung up. He wasn't finished. The next day, as the media frenzy exploded, Elliot sent over his sealed dossier. Gregory opened it methodically. Inside was a full background report on Roger Fielding. Sky America's CEO Gregory read slowly, absorbing every detail. Offshore accounts, company retreats paid for with misallocated funds. Internal complaints buried under NDAs and photos, private dinners with controversial figures, trips on the company jet with unnamed guests. He made a second call, this time to his legal team. "I want to initiate proceedings," he said publicly. "Yes, sir," came the reply. By the end of the week, Langston Capital issued a statement demanding full reimbursement of their $4 billion investment, citing breach of contract, unethical treatment of passengers, and failure to meet diversity protocols embedded in their corporate agreement. The statement was laced with legal firepower and veiled threats. The media devoured it. Talk shows debated the implications. Social media erupted. Hashtags like #RespectPassengers and #LangstonRevenge trended globally. Sky America scrambled. They issued apologies, but it was too late. Their stock continued to plummet. The Department of Transportation announced an investigation. Then the Securities and Exchange Commission launched a probe. Gregory never raised his voice. He never gave an interview. But the world began to whisper his name. He sat one evening by the fire as Elliot called again. "Roger Fielding is facing board review," Elliot said. "There's talk of forcing him out." Gregory said nothing. "They're offering a settlement to return half the investment plus damages." Gregory leaned back, eyes steady. "Tell them no. I'm not interested in money. I want his resignation, and I want it made public." There was silence on the line. Then Elliot spoke softly. "Yes, sir." That Sunday, the New York Times ran a headline. Sky America CEO resigns amid mounting pressure from private investor. Gregory turned the page without a smile. There was no joy in vengeance, only clarity. He folded the paper and placed it aside. His phone buzzed once more. An alert from a travel app. Sky America cancels 300-plus flights amid restructuring. Passengers complained online about delays, chaos, and missing connections. But one comment stood out. Maybe next time they won't judge someone by his coat. Gregory Langston stood from his chair and walked slowly toward the window again. Atlanta glimmered under a deep night sky. He thought of all the people who'd been overlooked, misjudged, brushed aside. This victory wasn't just for him. It was for every quiet man forced to justify his presence. For every soft-spoken woman told she didn't belong. For every traveler judged not by their ticket, but by their skin, their age, or the cut of their clothes. Gregory Langston didn't need applause. He had power. The kind that didn't scream or boast. The kind that changed the world with a single phone call. And now the world would never forget who he was. Not because of his wealth, but because he reminded them all. Respect is not reserved. It is owed.